Water, according to experts, has enormous and complex values for every household, food, culture, health, education, economics, and the integrity of our natural environment. However, most times we are quick to overlook any of these values and always risk mismanaging this finite and irreplaceable resource. Therefore, as Nigeria joins the rest of the world in celebrating 2021 World Water Day with the theme Valuing Water, which is aimed at raising awareness of the global water crisis, the core focus is to support the achievements of Sustainable Development Goal number 6, which is water and sanitation for all by the year 2030. Now, questions many may ask on a day like this could center around how much value do Nigerians place on water? Are we aware that millions of people, especially children, do not have access to water globally? Why then are people good at wasting water in Nigeria, and what are the implications of this act? These are some of the questions guests shall be providing answers to on Nigeria Today. Welcome to this edition of the program. I am Dennis Adigunloye. Now, joining me in the studio to discuss the level of value Nigerians place on water is the WASH Manager, Officer in Charge, WASH Section, UNICEF Abuja, in person of Michael Forson. You are very welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you.
All right, and also joining us via Zoom is the Acting General Manager, Kwara State Water Corporation, Ilorin Engineer Shehu Umar. Thank you for being with us on the program.
Thank you very much. Good evening, sir.
All right, I'll come to you shortly, sir. Let me start in the studio with Michael Forson, the WASH Manager with UNICEF. Let's start with the theme of this year's World Water Day, which is valuing water. Now, how relevant is this theme to Nigerians?
Thank you. As we know, the theme for this year's World Water Day, valuing water, many may look at it like basically the price of water and like look at how much water is costing. But then looking at it, it's more than just the cost. It's an inherent value where we look at what water means, how water affects the whole livelihood, and that is what we will call water, the value of water. So basically we're looking at it from the point that the value of water can affect a whole lot of things in the life of the inhabitants of Nigeria. For example, if you look at the population of Nigeria, about 200 million, the recent survey that UNICEF supported the Federal Ministry of Water Resources to do showed that over 30% of the population does not have access to safe water. That translating it into figures, I mean, that means roughly about 60 million people don't have access to water. So if you look at it in terms of percentage number of children without access, it translates to about 26.9 million children not having access to water. So let's just try to see the effect, which I will call the value of that water has on them, which it can affect their education, it can affect how they grow up, it can affect even their protection, because they will spend time trying to go and look for water and they are exposed to all sorts of attack. They become very vulnerable, especially the girl child. I mean, where some find themselves in situations of rape because they are walking long distances to find water. But later I will come to how we can really look at it in terms of accessibility.
All right, okay, quite some alarming statistics you just churned out there. Let me come to our guest coming to us via Zoom, Engineer Shehu. Let me ask you the obvious question: how important is water to humans, and how come, given the stats you just heard, how come we don't place much value on it?
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to give glory to God that we all are witnessing the World Water Day today. And actually, I think with viewers, we try as much as possible to let us share knowledge about how we all value water. For instance, we know that more than 76% of our body fluid is water. So if anybody doesn't value water or doesn't understand what water is all about, you look at the body fluid, which contains more than 76% of water, then we should all know how important water is all about. But by and by, when we talk about water and people value water, I think this kind of program needs to be coming up so that we can be enlightening ourselves. People value water, but when we talk about value in terms of what is the cost of the production of water, then you find out that people don't really appreciate the value of water. If water is free, everybody will be able to say, okay, they want to use it. There's a lot of wastages all over the place. But when I tell you the cost of production versus what is even entailed in terms of what people pay, you find out that there is no way the governments, the donor agencies, all other stakeholders need to come in order to subsidize the cost of water production. And that's where the valuing of water needs to come in. Like I said initially, if we have to go deep down and look at what value the water is to our body, to the usage in other aspects, agriculture, manufacturing sector, and all whatnot, there's no way you can do without water. So definitely this year's theme is just a very big awareness for all of us to really understand why water is so valuable. And that is the reason why we need to look at the issue of wastages. It's all over the place. You'll see some places where water will be leaking all over the place, pipes will be leaking, and people will just walk away from it. We need to change our mindset in terms of water treatment as well as water production and giving to the masses. This is very, very important.
Yeah, Shehu, let me come back to our guest in the studio. He alluded to some of the major causes of water crises that we are experiencing, not just in Nigeria but globally. He talked about leakages. Just to elaborate for us on some of these major challenges that we face with regards to water wastage.
Thank you. I think when we come to the water crisis that we mentioned, I think I'll look at it from 2 points. First, I can talk in terms of quantity and then in quality. Now, all these things are being affected by the current climate change we are going through, a lot due to environmental factors. The way we fall trees around indiscriminately, falling trees, which is affecting the way water, is being protected. Because water is a cycle. So immediately you alter one in the environment, it affects the others. For example, if we take the northeast of Nigeria, it's been seriously impacted by dwindling water table. That is, we are losing a lot of the groundwater, and we are all much aware here that in Nigeria, apart from the southern regions, most of the country depends on groundwater. So if we keep on falling trees indiscriminately without planting them, this affects the way the groundwater is being recharged. For example, we can get a source of water that we will start using. After a couple of years, it runs dry and we don't understand. It's the activities that human beings we do that impacted it. Secondly, when I talk of the quality, human behavior also affects the crisis. For example, Engineer Shegu did mention about the cost of production. At the point of production, the water is safe for consumption and use. But as people fetch it, transport it, take it home, they contaminate it along the line. So the value or the money we've used to treat it to make it safe is lost. And therefore, this creates a crisis in terms of quality. You will take the water, drink it and you fall sick and you don't know what is happening, and it's just human behavior that is alluding to that. So all comes into the crisis that we are having. And again, the water stress also is affecting disproportionately across Nigeria. For example, one geopolitical area has, I mean, as low as 7%, and another place has as high as, I mean, 11%. So we see that it's not uniform. So every geopolitical area, we need to understand the challenges in the water crisis and how we can help to avert the crisis. The crisis is now, it's not in the future. So if we think that we are waiting till the future before we take action, then we will miss the target of meeting the SDGs. Sure,
very, very important point there, Engineer Shehu. He's just made a crucial point there about SDG 2030, which is water for all by that year. What would you say are the major implications of wastage of water generally? Okay, Engineer Shehu is temporarily out of communication, but we will get back to him. Let me come back to our guest in the studio, Michael Forson. Generally, what are the implications then of water wastages? You talk about the answers and the issues must be tackled now, not in the future. So assuming this was to continue, what are the long-term consequences of water wastage?
Okay, if I will come in, water wastage actually, let me take it this way. If you look at a particular place, they may think they have water, so they are just using it. Now, on the average, we are looking at a per capita of 9 liters in Nigeria. That is, the minimum water need is 9 liters per person per day. 9 liters per person per day. Now, this is the minimum. So if anybody don't get that minimum, that means he's being affected, he's going through water stress. However, some people overuse it and some people waste it. Any piece of water you waste, you should understand that you are depriving another person from getting his part towards meeting the SDGs. For example, if we think of water recycling, we should be able to retrieve some of this. Effective use of water is what is the most important thing we have to be looking at. Water wastage especially is found in most of the urban areas where we have pipe-borne water flowing. So most people, like washing their car, they will just put the water hose down and the water will just be running away because they don't know the cost of treating a cubic meter of water, just like Engineer Shehu said. So the water wastage, we have to be very critical. I think there it's time action is taken, not just like paying water bill, but action is taken that if you spend more water, you pay for it beyond the per capita.
Okay, all right, we'll continue our discussions in just a moment. You are on to Nigeria Today. Let's now get the thoughts of some Nigerians on this issue of water and how much value we place on it. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Water is very, very, very important. There's nothing you can do without water. So I value water, definitely.
Every human existence is centered around water. So you can't quantify the value of water. Water is just our basic need. It's just the primary. It is source of human life.
We are lacking water. No matter water is surrounded by us. Like today I use water, I use pure water to bath. Pure water. I bought a bag of pure water which I use in bathing. Am I going to use pure water to flush toilet? Am I going to use it to wash clothes? Am I going to use it to wash plates? It's very poor. It's a shameful thing.
Yes, we are lacking water much because water is life. Water sustains life.
In my area where I'm living, you understand me, there is water, but government needs to improve on it.
Most of the rural areas, like where I stay, most of their pipes are broken. So I would have loved to advise if government they can follow up or monitor all the broken pipes to be fixed, I think that would be of help to rural dwellers.
Like in the case of Gwegwelada, you get to some areas, you see the pump is off, either burst or is wasting, let me say leakages. So from there, the government should look into all those areas, and with that, to help us out, please.
All right, welcome back. The program is Nigeria Today. If you are just tuning in, we are discussing issues around the value we place on water. We have in the studio the WASH manager, officer in charge of the WASH section, UNICEF Abuja, in person of Michael Forson, and via Zoom, the acting general manager, Kwara State Water Corporation, Ilorin, engineer Shehu Umar. Let's stay with our guest in the studio. It would seem that from what we heard there from some members of the public, that they have quite an appreciation of just how serious, shall we say, the crisis, the water crisis is in the country. Just give us your reactions to some of those comments.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's quite interesting in the comment, and I must say they are all true, because we can see water surrounding us, but the water may not be safe. They are open source water, some are contaminated with bacteriological contamination and other forms of metal that have very serious health implications. And if we want to even quantify the money we will spend going to the hospital because we drank a contaminated water and got diarrhea, we will really appreciate the value of water. And as is being said, water is all around us, but is it safe to drink? It will be of interest to know that the responsibility lies with all of us. We cannot point to the government alone. Everybody has a part to play. For example, in the rural communities, if you fetch the water and you take it home, it's your responsibility to store it well, to preserve the value in terms of quality of that water so that you will be safe and will not spend money going for treatment. Yeah. Then secondly, again, broken down boreholes in the rural area and others also, there are systems in place that support these things to do, and it's all of us have to make effort to ensure that the communities also add value to what the government has given them and preserve the systems so that they will continue functioning for them.
All right, it appears our guest via Zoom is back, Engineer Shehu. Engineer Shehu, if you can hear me, what would you say, given SDG number 6, clean water for all by the year 2030, how well would you say we have done in achieving this goal? And secondly, on the role of the individual, this is a collaboration that everybody is involved in. How would you say the role of the individual, how important it is, and what can they do on their own parts to ensure that we achieve SDG 6 by 2030?
Okay, I think
well, we seem to be having challenges with Engineer Shehu. All right, staying with the role of the individual, Mr. Michael. With you, Mr. Michael. Okay.
We find out that we have a lot of gap. And this gap is something we need to actually look at in terms of water and sanitation. And going forward, what we did was to take stock of how many waterworks we have in the urban and the rural area. When we look at that, what we did was just to itemize all of them, take a kind of inventory of what we have. I can tell you today, we have done more than 50% of the total waterworks we have in the state, both within the urban and the rural area. And going forward, what we are trying to do is to ensure that SDG 6, which is about water and sanitation, covers every nooks and cranny of the state. And that is why we have to key into the WASH and the P-WASH of the federal government, which is helping us a lot. And currently, what we try to do is to do a lot of awareness in terms of what we are doing, how we are doing it, even up to the cost of ensuring that we tell them what is the cost of producing this water. We run more than 20 million liters of water in a day. So that is obviously some of the things we churn to the town. We share everybody what is our regime in terms of supply of water to the populace. But the challenges which we are trying to make people realize is these wastages. And that is why, from my own point of view, the only way we can really value water strongly is by trying as much as possible to make most of the water boards we have in the country, we have to make sure they are autonomous. The moment they are autonomous, there will be targets. Look at Lagos State, look at Kaduna State, they are autonomous, and they are even bringing return on investment. And the political class need to understand that we can't use water as dividends of democracy. It is very important for us to understand that water is no more a social product. It's an economic product. So the moment we start changing our mindset, making people understand some of these things, we are going to break even. Like I said initially, the cost of, since this administration of Malam Abraham Abrazak came in, we spent a lot of money, both in the rural and the urban area. The rural areas, we don't even have a choice in some instances. We have to dig boreholes. And some of these boreholes, we are trying to get away from it so that we have all our distribution line all over the state so that we can be able to supply water through the dams and where that we have within. We've been trying as much as possible to locate some of the places where we have where. So all these put together, people needs to be, aware. The awareness needs to be at the highest level for people to know that going forward, the cost of production will continue to be high. Look at the pandemic we have. Water is our first line of curbing the diseases. But people don't really value it. So when we talk about valuing water, you know that all the trying to make the curve of this COVID pandemic, to reduce the curve, we need water as much as possible. All right. We need water for our production. Yeah. We need water for our industries. We need water for everyday life.
All right. Thank you for that, Engineer Shehu. Let me give the last word to Michael Forson here in the studio. In terms of awareness, very briefly, on the part of the general public on the importance of water, how well or how far has UNICEF gone? Very briefly, please.
Thank you very much. Actually, UNICEF has been working with the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. That is the lead ministry to ensure that the SDG 6 is realized in this country, to ensure water for all. And we work with the government first to help the government to understand what the problems are and then work together to come out with strategies. I have here with me what we call the National Outcome Routine Mapping of Water and Sanitation and Hygiene Services levels in Nigeria. Now,
very briefly, please.
This one tells us that even with all the facilities being provided, 73% of them are still functional. That means almost about 27% breakdown. So as we are going forward, then we are coming back. So in terms of awareness, for the rural sector, we are working with the government to ensure that the communities are part of maintaining this system. They take ownership in order to sustain the facilities.
Okay, definitely. Hopefully we'll get you back to further elaborate on that. But for now, our time is up. Thanks to you, Michael Forson, WASH Manager, OIC WASH Section, UNICEF Abuja. Many thanks for being with us and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much.
And folks, thanks also to our guest via Zoom, Acting General Manager, Kwara State Water Corporation, Ilorin Engineer Shehu Umar. Thanks for being with us and sharing your perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thanks to you out there for watching. Nigeria Today is live at 7:30 in the evening every weekday. Also watch this and other editions of the program on youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I'm Dennis Adigunle. Thanks for your company.